Thunder roared across the naval airfield as a squadron of fighter jets returned from a high-stakes training exercise. The air shimmered with heat and pride, until one pilot, a young woman with steely eyes and a call sign painted boldly beneath her cockpit, "Iron Widow," stepped out. When the SEAL Admiral, known for his iron discipline and cutting humor, asked her call sign with a smirk, expecting a rookie S nervous laugh, she answered calmly, "Iron Widow, sir." The laughter around him faded as her name echoed. What began as a joke turned into stunned silence when the Admiral learned why she carried that name and the heartbreaking sacrifice behind it. That moment would remind every soldier present what true strength, loyalty, and loss really meant. The first thing I remember about that day was the heat. The tarmac shimmered like a sheet of molten glass beneath the roaring engines of the returning jets. I stood at attention beside my duffel bag, the heavy scent of jet fuel burning in the air. Around me, pilots joked, shouted, and slapped one another's backs, the usual rhythm of life on a naval airbase. I was the new one, Lieutenant Ava Cole, recently transferred from the Atlantic Fleet Air Arm. My call sign, printed in block letters on the side of my helmet, read "Iron Widow." I could feel eyes on me as soon as I walked past the hangar doors. Some whispered, some smirked. I didn't blame them. Call signs have stories, and mine sounded like a tragedy dressed in metal. When I reached the briefing room, I found him, Admiral Nathan Briggs, the man every pilot either feared or revered, a veteran of countless operations, a living legend among SEALs, and a commander who could turn even the most confident aviator into a trembling cadet with one look. He studied me as I saluted. "Lieutenant Cole reporting for duty, sir." He gave me a sharp nod, his expression unreadable. Then, with a half smile tugging at the corner of his lips, he said, "Iron Widow, huh? Sounds cheerful." The room erupted in laughter. Even the flight engineers cracked grins. I didn't flinch. I'd heard the joke before, a dozen times, in a dozen places. "Yes, sir," I replied evenly. "It grows on people." Something in my voice made the laughter falter. The Admiral raised an eyebrow, studying me for a moment longer before moving on with the briefing. But I caught it. That flicker of curiosity behind his eyes. He didn't know yet. None of them did. But they would. The following week was all training. The base's rhythm was strict. Flight drills at dawn, strategy meetings by noon, maintenance checks till dusk. Every move I made was being watched. I was the only woman in the new squadron, and new pilots were always tested. The others, veterans with call signs like Raven, Talon, and Ghost, sized me up every day, waiting for me to stumble. One afternoon, during a flight debrief, the Admiral leaned back in his chair and asked casually, "So, Lieutenant Cole, remind me again, how did you earn that rather dramatic call sign?" The room went silent. I looked up from my notes, met his gaze, and said softly, "It was given to me, sir. I didn't choose it." He chuckled. "Most don't, but they usually have a story behind them. Care to share yours?" I hesitated, not because I couldn't speak of it, but because every time I did, I had to relive the moment that changed my life. "I'd rather show you, sir," I said finally. His smirk returned. "Fair enough. Tomorrow's live exercise. Let's see what Iron Widow can do." The next morning, the sun was barely above the horizon when I climbed into my jet, a sleek FA-18 Super Hornet. The canopy reflected the dawn light, and for a second, I caught my own eyes staring back, steady but hollow. "Widow 1, ready for takeoff," I radioed. "Copy that, Widow 1, came the tower's voice. "You're clear for launch." The catapult hurled me forward, pressing me into the seat as the jet screamed into the sky. Instantly, the noise, the tension, the doubt, all of it vanished. Up here, it was just me, the hum of the engine, and the memory of a voice that once called me by another name. Daniel's voice. "Stay strong, Ava. Iron doesn't break." We had shared everything. Training, missions, dreams. He'd been my husband, my co-pilot, my anchor. 2 years ago, he was sent on a classified mission. I stayed behind at the command center, watching his radar trace disappear into static. They found wreckage weeks later. No remains, no last transmission, except the final 3 words that still echo in my nightmares. Iron can't break. I pushed the memory aside and focused on the mission. Below, I could hear the squadron chatter, the others coordinating their moves. But when a simulated enemy drone appeared on radar, I didn't wait for instructions. Instinct took over. "Widow 1, engaging," I said. I pulled into a vertical climb, looped, and dropped right behind the drone target. My missile lock beeped. 1 shot, bullseye. "Direct hit," the controller announced. "Exercise complete." When I landed, the airfield crew broke into cheers. The Admiral watched silently, arms crossed, as I stepped out of the cockpit and removed my helmet. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. The look in his eyes said it all. Curiosity had turned to respect. A few nights later, I was walking past the operations room when I noticed the Admiral inside, reading something on his desk, my personnel file. He didn't see me standing there, but I saw the change on his face, the way his confident posture faltered, the way his jaw clenched. He whispered my husband's name. Daniel Cole. He closed the file slowly, then stared at the wall for a long time before turning off the light and leaving. I stayed there, frozen. He knew now.
The next evening, he called me to his office. The room was dim, filled with the scent of old leather and coffee. A single photo of him with his SEAL team sat on the desk, all smiling young men in desert uniforms. "Lieutenant," he began, voice low, "I reviewed your service record." "Yes, sir." He hesitated, then said quietly, "You were married to Captain Daniel Cole." My throat tightened. "Yes, sir." He looked down at his hands. "He was one of mine. I trained him years ago, before he joined the Air Wing. He was one of the best." Silence filled the room. "He spoke about you," the Admiral said softly. "Told me he'd never met anyone who could outfly him, or outfight him." My chest ached. I tried to smile, but it trembled. "He used to say that to make me blush." The Admiral leaned back, eyes glistening. "I teased you earlier about your call sign. I didn't know. I wouldn't have—" "It's all right, sir," I interrupted gently. "No one ever does." He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on me. "Why keep it? Why not choose another?" I took a breath. "Because it's not about what I lost, sir. It's about what I carry." Daniel's last words were, "Iron can't break." He was reminding me to stay strong, to keep flying. I took his call sign so that every time someone says Iron Widow, I remember that strength isn't about never falling apart. It's about learning how to keep flying even when you do. For the first time, I saw something I never expected, the Admiral's composure breaking. He stood, walked around the desk, and saluted me, not as a superior to a subordinate, but as a soldier to another soldier. "Your husband would be proud," he said quietly. A week later, the base went into alert. A rogue drone had breached naval airspace, fast, unpredictable, and armed. The situation demanded immediate action. "Widow 1, launch priority," the tower ordered. As I raced across the tarmac, I caught the Admiral's eyes. He gave me a single nod. No words, no orders, just trust. The jet roared to life, slicing into the evening sky. The drone moved erratically on radar, but I stayed locked in. Every maneuver I'd learned, every instinct I'd honed, it all came together in those seconds. "Target acquired," I whispered. I fired. Direct hit. The explosion lit the horizon, a burst of orange against the twilight. "Target neutralized," the tower confirmed. When I landed, the entire squadron waited. The Admiral approached, his expression unreadable. Then, in front of everyone, he said, "Remember this name, Iron Widow, because sometimes strength isn't forged in victory. It's born from loss." The airfield fell silent. Then the applause began, hesitant at first, then thunderous. Later that night, I found the Admiral standing alone by the memorial wall, where the names of the fallen were carved into stone. He was holding his cap against his chest. I walked up quietly beside him. He pointed to a name, Captain Daniel Cole. "I trained him," he said softly. "But you carry him." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "He's the reason I'm still here." He placed his cap beneath Daniel's name and whispered something I could barely hear. "Your Iron Widow carries your fire." I stood beside him in silence. The night was cold, the stars sharp and endless. Somewhere out there, I liked to think Daniel was watching, maybe laughing softly at the irony of it all. As I turned to leave, the Admiral called out, "Lieutenant?" "Yes, sir?" He smiled faintly. "Don't ever change that call sign." I smiled back. I wasn't planning to. The next morning, I walked across the tarmac again. The sun was rising, painting everything gold. My jet gleamed, the words Iron Widow glinting in the light. I ran my hand along the metal, feeling its warmth. Somewhere deep inside, I could still hear Daniel's voice, calm, teasing, full of life. "Stay strong, Ava. Iron can't break." I climbed into the cockpit, took a deep breath, and whispered back, "I know, Daniel. I never will." The engines roared to life. The world trembled beneath me. And as I soared into the sky, leaving the ground behind, I realized something. The call sign that once felt like a wound had become my armor. I wasn't flying to escape my past. I was flying to honor it. Because I wasn't just Iron Widow. I was proof that love, courage, and loss could forge something unbreakable. I wasn't called Iron Widow because I lost everything. I was called Iron Widow because I refused to break.